My biggest issue every year when it comes to free agency is that what's the point of a salary cap? Does anybody know?
Well, it's to level the playing field among owners. So not all owners are created equal. Not all of them have the same amount of capital and income to be able to invest in the franchise. So what a salary cap allows you to do is say everybody's allotted this amount of money to be able to spend on things in the teams, whether that's coaching hires, front office money, players, anything that's allotted to. If you go above this cap or hit this cap, you are now against league bylaws or league rules. That's all a salary cap is. Because, like, think about it when, like, 1910 started. Like, if I was, like, Daddy Warbucks or something, and you're, like, the Christopher Thomases, and you guys are, like, a local YMCA team, and I just go and get all the dudes from Notre Dame, the entire Notre Dame team, and I buy all the best equipment, we're going to destroy you every year. So to make it fair, though, if I can only spend $100 and you can only spend $100, who comes up with the best team? It's supposed to. Does it make any sense? It's pretty much supposed to weigh out balance and make everything more competitive.
Like, I understand it, like, back then, like, Dallas, because it's Dallas, it's Texas, it's Jerry Jones, all the money they've made, like, financially, like, the oil race, I get all of that. But I feel like now, have gotten to a point where it's like, we have grown past that, because every single time I see a deal, especially when it comes to quarterbacks, everybody's talking about, oh, it's overpaid. You're not going to be able to. This guy's selfish because what about everybody else? Like, you're not going to be able to build a proper team around him. That's where I kind of have an issue, where it's like, so I'm supposed to take less in order for everybody else to eat. And, like, I understand, like, in terms of building a team, but my thing is that, like, I'm trying to equate it in real life. So if I work at a job, I'm supposed to make less an hour just so everybody else be able to make the same. No.
Yeah, that's literally what, like, competitive wages and bargaining wage. That's what the whole, like, work thing is with right now, of, like, everybody being able to make a certain minimum wage, a livable wage. If everybody's making the same wage, then everybody can afford the same things.
Yeah, but if my skills in terms of my impact and what I'm able to bring to the table far exceeds what everybody else is going to do, then no, I'm not going to take a pay cut. No, I'm not going to forego my salary or restructure for anything. No, you guys pay me. You are what you negotiate. And that's my thing, where it's like, when it comes to the one thing I noticed is, like, about wrestling is that everybody complains about, oh, Brock Lesnar's making too much money. Like, no, he's not. He is what he negotiates. Like, if you had the opportunity to make $10 million a year, you only work the big four pay-per-views, and you appear on live TV just to sit there and let Paul Heyman talk on the mic, and you just do your little Brock trot for about 8 times a year, hell yeah, I'm taking that money. The issue overall that I have with the salary cap is that whenever a big-time player gets paid, they label them as selfish because they're not viewed as team players. That's also the kind of issue where it's like the Tom Brady effect. Like, Tom Brady was able. Everybody's like, oh, how come we just can't do the Tom Brady? Because not everybody has the resources, and not everybody's Tom Brady.
Okay, so I'll give you an example on why salary cap works in particularly basketball and football. I'll name you 2 sports. The other 4 major sports, it doesn't work. Soccer, internationally, and baseball. And the reason I bring up soccer is, think of all the clubs you know: Real Madrid, Bayern, Barcelona. All of these big clubs have one thing in common: they have unlimited pockets. So that's why when you guys have guys who come up on, like, Tottenham, and then when it comes time for that transfer portal, or when it comes time for them to be in that free, they can just all go to Barcelona, or they can all go to because why? There's no cap to prevent them. There's no bird rights. There's no things that help these smaller franchises to retain players. And the truth of the matter is, it is a business. So all you're doing is leveling the playing field on the business. At the end of the day, that guy can still say, I'm going to play for Real. But at least there's a chance that the Tottenham Spurs or Everton or somebody like that, a smaller club, can say, okay, well, if they can give you 150 during the transfer portal, we'll give you 152 to stay. That might be all that they can afford under the cap bargaining. But can you imagine if it was like, okay, we'll just give them 400? And that's what happens in soccer, though. That's legitimately what happens. It's just like baseball is another example. The Yankees are constantly good because there's no salary cap. So literally they can just overload with contracts, and then guess what? If a guy doesn't work out, you trade him again to get another prospect to refill in their farm system. Because there's no cap, there's no help for smaller teams. So teams like the Rays and like the A's, that's why analytics really took off in baseball, because it was like, well, we got to find a way around this, because the Red Sox can just afford this, or the Yankees can just afford that, or like the Rangers or whatever teams can pay a lot of money. So,
okay, but the thing is that there's more parity when it comes to baseball because of analytics, or because they know how to draft, they know how to scout, they know how to develop. The financial aspect, I get that, but that's only one part of the equation. If the financial and the big market matters, then you would have seen. Then how come the Knicks are the way that? How come the Knicks are the way they are? How come Brooklyn still hasn't been able to get it together? They're part of the top 5 media market. Chicago has been just a run-of-the-mill average basketball team ever since Jordan retired the second time. The only time that they actually have any sort of semblance of relevancy has been this year and the few years that they had Derrick Rose before the first ACL tear. So to me, it's like, and more importantly, when you look at the state of sports now, sports is making a lot more money than what it is as opposed to what it was during the 90s when the Cowboys were dominating. Like when you look at the NCAA football, and the reason why I advocated so many years for it is like, why can't players just make $20 off their own autographs? You saw the college football playoffs; they're making over nine figures just to air college football playoffs in terms of just watching Alabama, just to watch the same Alabama, Georgia teams go to the championship game and win every year. And then when you look at the money that all these big schools make, I'm talking the Ohio States, I'm talking the Oregons, they're making over billions and billions of dollars, not only just in revenue sales but also the TV rights and everything else. So there's more money to be made now more than ever, not only just in college basketball, but also basketball, just all the sports in general. So that's why I feel like we have grown past the need of needing a salary cap. To me, I'm tired of the pressure of the players having to take that pay cut because the owners feel like, because the owners have a limit in terms of what they're spending. If there was no salary cap, then in my opinion, then the pressure becomes on the owners because the players be able to negotiate how much they're willing to bet on themselves and realize how much they're worth.
I mean, that's a point, but I just think if you want to just keep it basic in terms of a salary cap, the reason why people, I think, have a problem with, like, say, Aaron Rodgers, he got $153 million guaranteed, and then whatever else was on that contract that he just signed. I think it's just hard because in terms of team sports, it's just kind of like a hard dynamic. It's like the quarterback gets $153 million, but the whatever the tight end gets 10 or 5 or whatever it is. I just think the salary caps have to be there because you need some because here's the thing. Do you think Aaron Rodgers is really one player? He's really worth how much is his full contract?
Reportedly, because it's
200 million.
40 years, 200 million, 153 million guaranteed. Reportedly.
Okay, and then what was Mahomes' big contract that he signed for the 5 years?
10 years, 500 million.
10 years, 500 million, right?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
So
which is about the same on average when you look at the years.
Yeah. It's just, I just think it's just the way it's just looking and how it's feeling is just these numbers are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and more outlandish. And it's like, is the quarterback, I understand he leads the team, he runs the team, whatever. Aaron Rodgers is an all-time great quarterback, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, is he really worth all that money versus other people on the team? Like, because here's the thing, Aaron Rodgers can go out there by himself and he can't play. He needs the team. So it's like, I get it that the rest of the team, they just want their piece, their part, because here's the thing, value isn't necessarily determined by your skills. And you know how it is with value. It can be measured by people's opinions, by favoritism, by all these kind of things. So I feel like his value is not necessarily measured by people's values, and what they get paid aren't always equal to what their productivity has been or what kind of players they are. It's all situational. So I think salary caps have to be there because you just have to make it fair. I mean, you can say Aaron Rodgers is worth that much, but I just think as we're going on in the years, it's just getting excessive. Like Patrick Mahomes making that much for 10 years, that's a lot.
Yeah, but let me pose you this question. If Aaron Rodgers was to just say, you know what, I'm retiring, how many national TV games are they going to show Green Bay next year? As opposed to what it was years past.
Yeah, I mean, his status has given him the right to have that power to say, I deserve this, I want this. That's fine. But it's like, to what end? To what end do we have for this? Like, what is the measuring stick of how much is too much?
Are you asking in the generalized sense of, like, would we pay athletes? Or are you asking,
No, I mean, like, just team sports. Like, football, basketball. Other sports is kind of different. Like, sports that are like directly team sports, like you can't have one without the other.
Well, I think basketball is, to me, the one sport that and I don't know how y'all feel, but it's the one sport where if we're talking like 1-star players' pay as opposed to the rest of a roster's pay, kind of equals itself out. I agree, because like I agree with what you're saying, because right, if A-Rod goes back to Green Bay, like, are they gonna win another Super Bowl? Maybe, maybe not, right? But the last 3 years prove that there's been something missing for whatever reason that y'all can't get it done, whether it's San Fran running y'all out the building, Tom Brady out clutching you, or the 49ers once again just out working you this year. So, what were we about to say?
No. But just with that point too, it's like, so say, what happens, like what happened with Aaron Rodgers the past 3 seasons, and he hasn't made it to a Super Bowl in how long? So say you don't reach this potential, your promise. You mean what you're supposed to do?
Exactly.
Do you get reduction in your pay? You mean, does it happen like that by performance? Like, hey, like you say you're supposed to be this.
Nope.
So it's like no matter what happens, he's getting this obscene amount of money, and it doesn't necessarily guarantee the results that they want.
Okay, let's compare this like when LeBron James went back to Cleveland for the second time. The amount of money that not only, did the NBA was making in terms of selling that story, him going back to Cleveland, but the entire city of Cleveland. Like, that shows you how much power that one man is able to revitalize and rejuvenate an economy. So my thing is that when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, it's like, okay, when you have Aaron Rodgers, you get multiple primetime games. So primetime games, you get more viewers, more eyes on the product, more money. And then when you just see him being able to go on shows like the Pat McAfee show, or like he goes on First Take, or does, his interviews on like multiple like podcasts, that gets eyes on the product, and that increases his value in terms of marketability. And then when you talk about, jerseys and revenue sales and all that stuff. So in the end, it's not just about the product on the field, but it's also, what you're able to, financially be able to supply in terms of your product, in terms of what you're able to bring for an organization.
So you're saying the organization has it, so why not pay Aaron Rodgers? Like they're gaining and profiting off of Aaron Rodgers and everything that he brings outside of on the field, so why not pay him because they have the money? That's what you're saying?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, I mean, in that sense, it does make sense. That's a point. I think it's so many different points you can make, but I think on the other side of it, it's just the team, and it's just like kind of like breaking up how much is each person on the team get paid versus this one man, the quarterback, which, as Jay just said, what you saw, sometimes this one man can't get it done without ABC. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's kind of hard to determine what is the worth. Like, how can you measure his worth, and is it fair? Because I think, as we've known, as we've seen, that kind of stuff, it's just like with anything. Like, you have a king, right? And you have people, soldiers and generals or whatever, people, under you. And if you see that the king is just getting so much, and you're doing, like, kind of the gritty work and the dirty work, and he's still just getting the most, it's going to build a resentment. It's going to build you know what I mean? It's like the morale of the team, too, like team dynamics. I think that's something to do with it, too. Because you can say whatever, like Aaron Rodgers, but it's like, it's just the fact of human beings and human nature, and seeing these things and feeling like I want more, too. Like, what about me? I want a piece of the pie. I want more.
That's fair. But that's also why I said, like, I feel like we should move past the salary cap, because in the end, you are what negotiate. How much Aaron Rodgers is potentially making shouldn't dictate in terms of how much you want to pay a guy like Devontae Adams, because Devontae Adams is just equally important in terms of the synergy of what that offense is in that dynamic. Same with David Bakhtiari, same with, the Smith brothers and Jair Alexander. That's why, in my opinion, I feel like we should move past that, because, like, there shouldn't be, obviously, there's market value, so you're going to get paid market value in terms of, what you matter at your position. But to me, everybody should get a piece of the pie. I feel like just because, certain guys making this amount of money, even though the money at that position is probably the most prominent position, it shouldn't hinder on what you should do for the rest of the team.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. I just think in terms of what you negotiate, I think negotiations have different levels to them too. Like, difference of accessibility, the kind of representation they had, the openness of the organization to their representation. I think all that stuff matters behind closed doors that we don't see. So I think that plays a part in what people get sometimes. I'm sure people want the most and the best, but as negotiations go, sometimes they don't get it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. That's just my take on it.
For me, it also, like, you got to kind of talk about the economics of celebrity culture in America and how celebrity culture and sports integrates, right. Truly. And we pay our athletes the way we pay our celebrities, outrageously and disproportionate to any more important civil duties or, any other job in this country. Mm-hmm. So, and we're not the only country that's guilty of it. We're just the country that's known to be the most idiotic about it. And it shows in our athletes. We are literally, talking about a guy getting $200 million who hasn't won a Super Bowl in 15 years. Because of the revenue that is allotted, because so many people watch football, he can get that type of money. You know what I mean? And because of his brand, because of State Farm, because of the things, and because of what he represents, him having dated actresses and being this big pop culture figure, that's where his worth is. Like we talked about with the primetime games, no one would care about the Packers. They're a historical franchise and all this, and no one cares about Wisconsin except for they like Aaron Rodgers. The way he plays football, he's marketable.
Yeah, because when you break it down, they're a small market organization. And
it also leads in my bigger point that quarterbacks are truly, really not the only marketable guys in the league, but it's the easiest position to market. It's a position where they have the ball the most. You can track their stats the easiest. It's the most casual thing to know a quarterback's name.
Right.
You ask the average person who does not watch football to name a football player, they'll probably name either Tom Brady or another quarterback. So that is just how it is in that position, and you're going to get paid as such. And so I was saying earlier, like my example of basketball, of why the disproportion in basketball works for me mentally is because, like, if you have a team like the Mavericks, no one on that team is as good as Luka Doncic. So if he's getting paid 5 years, $200 million, and everybody else is getting paid around that to whatever the salary cap is before the luxury tax, or maybe even exceeding it, because basketball has a system where it's like, all right, you want to ignore our cap? Well, we're just going to tax you. If you're Daddy Warbucks, a guy like Mark Cuban, what's the owner of the Joe Lacob over there in Golden State? They don't care. They're tech billionaires and guys who have money to spend, so they'll just pay that tax. So if he's getting paid that much, it's because you can interchange guys around him, and you're still going to have a base level of how good and how attractive your product is on the court. And at the end of the day, people forget that, yes, this is a sport, but it's also a business. And it's about having attractive assets that bring people to your business. You need a Big Mac. You need a Whopper. You need a Air Force One. You need an asset that is always going to be giving you value. That's why when you're not in that window or don't have the talent to win a championship, if you don't have a LeBron, if you don't have a team like the 04 Pistons, or just that sort of the thing that you're looking for the most is what can bring people, what puts butts in the seats, because that's all these teams care about. Let's not get it messed up. Like, yeah, you have players and coaches, and even have some owners who get so invested, they're like, no, I want to win. Screw that. I'm a business person. This is my mind. I want to win. But for the most part, this is about making money. So it's about having marketable players, how to get people in the seats, what type of food to sell. So it's all really comes down to business. And when people are like, oh, man, how is this guy getting paid so much? You have to think about what that asset brings in and of itself. You might be paying Aaron Rodgers $200 million over the next 4 years, but you could argue with him as your quarterback, with his endorsements, everything, he's going to generate over $200 million in revenue over that time period. So you're getting your investment back.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just...
Whereas my second string punter, who I'm paying like $500,000, like, he's going to also get that investment back. You know what I'm saying? It's paying what you're worth, truly. So that's how I feel. And also that's why, like, agents come into it, because, left to a guy's devices, like, he might be like, because you got to think, there was a time before sports agencies and sports agents. So there was a time where a guy could be like, asset-wise, I'm worth $100 million even in that time period. Like, can you imagine what Babe Ruth got paid versus what he really would have been worth as an asset value had he had an agent?
Right.
Someone to really, or at least even a bar had been set and he could represent him, because guys do that now. There's a bar set and you can represent yourself. But in an era where they're like, oh yeah, we'll pay you in like 6 packs of beer and a lot of cigars and like $100,000. He was probably like, that sounds great.
Right.
So I just think, with the economic pool that sports has, we really can't be surprised anymore at what these guys bring in. We just got to look at it as it's a booming industry. Like anything else, it's a $1 billion business. So there's millions of dollars to be given to workers. Whereas, like, if you're working in $1,000 McDonald's that makes $1 million a month or whatever, and you spread it out through however many employees, then you start to see the pay rate and how things go.